The uterus is the palace of the embryo. The embryo will develop and grow here. The uterus is a pear-shaped organ that consists of a body and a cervix. The wall of the uterus is relatively thick and is formed of 3 layers: endometrium, myometrium, and perimetrium. The perimetrium of the body is serosa, and the cervix is fibrosa. The myometrium, the thickest tunic of the uterus, is composed of bundles of smooth muscle fibers. During pregnancy, the myometrium goes through a period of great growth as a result of both hyperplasia and hypertrophy. After pregnancy, there is destruction of some smooth muscle cells, reduction in the size of others, and enzymatic degradation of the collagen. Endometrium consists of epithelium and lamina propria. The epithelium is simple columnar epithelium containing ciliated cells and secretory cells. The lamina propria contains simple tubular glands that sometimes branch in their deeper portions. The lamina propria is rich in fusiform-shaped fibroblasts, also called stroma cells, producing collagens. According to the function, the endometrium can be divided into 2 zones. The basal layer is the deepest one, adjacent to the myometrium. It does not shed during the menstrual cycle, but undergoes proliferation and repairing the functional layer. The functional layer is thick and sheds, undergoes a cyclic change, menstruation. In this pattern diagram, you can see the 2 layers of the endometrium: the basal layer and the functional layer. The blood vessels supplying the endometrium are of special significance in the periodic sloughing of most of this layer. Arcuate arteries are circumferentially oriented in the middle layer of the myometrium. From these vessels, 2 sets of arteries arise to supply blood to the endometrium: straight arteries, which supply the basal layer, and spiral arteries, which bring blood to the functional layer. In this light micrograph, the square shows the endometrium during the proliferative phase. The surface epithelium and the uterine glands are embedded in a lamina propria made of very loose connective tissue. After puberty, the ovarian hormones and the stimulus of the anterior lobe of the pituitary cause the endometrium to undergo cyclic structural modifications during the menstrual cycle. The duration of the menstrual cycle is variable, but averages 28 days. 3 typical phases can be distinguished: proliferative phase, secretory phase, and menstrual phase. The proliferative phase. After the menstrual phase, the uterine mucosa is relatively thin. The beginning of the proliferative phase coincides with the rapid growth of a small group of ovarian follicles, so it is also called follicular phase. It begins from the 5th day to 14th day of the cycle. Estrogens secreted by the growing follicles act on the endometrium, inducing cell proliferation and reconstitute the endometrium lost during menstruation. Stromal cells synthesize fibers and stroma. The glands are straight tubules with narrow lumens. Spiral arteries grow. At the end of the proliferative phase, the endometrium is 2 to 4 millimeters thick. The secretory phase. The secretory phase starts after ovulation and results from the action of progesterone secreted by the corpus luteum. From the 15th day to 28th day of the cycle, glands start to secrete by the action of the estrogen and progesterone and become highly coiled. The secretion of the glands is the major source of embryonic nutrition before embryo implantation. Stromal cells become pre-decidual cells, synthesize glycogens and lipid droplets. Spiral arteries reach the superficial layer. The endometrium reaches its maximum thickness 5 to 7 millimeters thick. Progesterone inhibits the contractions of smooth muscle cells of myometrium that might otherwise interfere with the implantation of the embryo. The menstrual phase. When fertilization and implantation do not occur, the corpus luteum ceases functioning 10 to 12 days after ovulation. The levels of progesterone and estrogens decrease rapidly. This causes several cycles of contraction of the spiral arteries, closing off the blood flow and producing ischemia, which leads to death, necrosis of the walls, and of part of the functional layer of the endometrium. Blood vessels rupture above the contractions, and bleeding begins. From the first day to the 4th day of the cycle. At the end of the menstrual phase, the endometrium is usually reduced to a thin layer. Then a new cycle begins. Look at these 3 micrographs. The left is menstrual phase. The middle is proliferative phase. The right is secretory phase. We must distinguish them from each other based on their light microscopic structures. In this table, you can see the relationship between hormones secreted by the ovary and cyclic changes of endometrium of the uterus. 1. Menstrual phase is from the 1st day to the 4th day. Corpus luteum undergoes degeneration. The levels of progesterone and estrogens decrease. The functional layer of the endometrium sheds. 2. Proliferative phase is from the 5th day to 14th day. Ovary follicles begin to grow and secrete estrogens. Functional layer of the endometrium undergoes proliferation and repairing. 3. Secretory phase is from the 15th day to 28th day. Corpus luteum is formed and secrete progesterone and estrogens. The endometrium reaches its maximum thickness. If the fertilization and implantation occur, the endometrium continues to develop and lasts the whole pregnancy. If the fertilization does not happen, another new cycle begins.